Hey guys, so if we hadn't had enough exciting news lately with the announcement of NVIDIA's 30 series GPUs, AMD has finally joined the fray. Apparently, October 8th, they're going to announce their new Zen 3. That's going to be the Ryzen 4000 CPUs. October 28th is going to be the RDNA2, which is going to be their next generation 6000 series GPUs. This is kind of big news. It could really affect what type of build you're going to be doing this fall. So let's talk about some of these ramifications. Let's get started. Hey guys, thank you for joining me again. Remember to subscribe, hit that notification symbol, leave a comment below. Let me know what you're thinking about building a PC this fall, and let's get right into it. So we've been pretty excited sort of just talking about the NVIDIA 30 series GPUs like it's really the only thing out there, talking about the Intel and AMD current generation CPUs, but AMD just dropped a pretty big announcement recently. October 8th, they're going to be announcing the Zen 3 Ryzen 4000 CPUs, as well as October 28th, the RDNA2 Big NAVI, possibly the 6000 series GPUs. Now, this is actually pretty important for those of us waiting for these new GPUs from NVIDIA. So let's break it down in two categories. Let's talk about the easier one first, which I think it's the CPU. So Ryzen 4000, if history has been any indication, these are going to be some significantly amazing CPUs. AMD has been taking a lot of Intel market share, as well as the hearts of gamers and enthusiasts, just because they've been innovating with some crazy good CPUs. The 3950X is one of my absolute favorite CPUs, just because it's 16 core, priced pretty fairly. Back in the day, to get a CPU like that from Intel was almost $2,000. So after AMD joined the fray, they've been putting out banger after banger, and these CPUs have been absolutely amazing. That's why I'm very excited for the 4000 series CPUs. One of the areas that AMD has continued to make great strides in improving their CPUs, and I think these 4000 series CPUs are going to be really good, that's going to be in their clock speed. As we've talked about on the channel recently, clock speed in CPUs are very important still for gaming. They don't matter as much for other workloads and different applications, but for gaming, having a high clock is going to be very important. We're talking about 4.8 gigahertz, 5 gigahertz plus. That's why Intel has been able to still kind of get that gaming crown for the last few generations, as their CPUs in the past have consistently clocked higher than the apparent Ryzen CPUs. Now, the recent Ryzen CPUs that were released, such as the 3900 XT, are a step in that right direction. They have considerably higher clocks, and that way they start to compete more and more in the last little stronghold that Intel held for itself, which is pretty much like the top gaming sort of CPUs. Now, we don't know too much yet in what's going to be embedded within these 4000 series CPUs. The only thing that I saw, a possible rumor, usually I don't like to speculate too much on these, but something that's similar to the 3950X may come out that's now going to go as high as maybe like 4.8 gigahertz or something like that, which is in line with the thinking that I think the clock speed is really where they're going to make a lot of these improvements. Of course, having a lot of cores, like 16 cores, 24 cores is nice. That, I don't know if AMD is necessarily looking to go in that direction. I think they're primarily looking to do their clock speeds first, because they also have Threadripper with 24, 32, 64 cores for those people that really need that type of performance. Because in general, especially for the mainstream and gaming, I think 16 to 18 cores is definitely more than enough, especially if they're hitting really high clocks. That means that you can now, as with the 3950X, run games as well as multi-threaded applications. It becomes very flexible. There were even some murmurs that the 4000 series Ryzen CPUs are going to have something similar to combat Intel's 10-core 10900K. As you guys know, Ryzen goes from the 3800X, which is only 8 core, to the 3900X, which is 12 core. So they don't really have a 10 core at all. Of course, you don't have to have that right in the middle, but that's definitely an open spot, and there are rumors that they're going to be putting something out to be able to compete both in price and performance with the 10900K. So that's definitely really interesting. I'm curious about that one, and also curious as to what the really high-end one is going to be, maybe like a 4950X or something like that. So now, most definitely, if you were looking to do a brand new build in September with like an NVIDIA 3080 or something like that, and you wanted to get a new Ryzen CPU, that kind of throws a wrench in your planning, because now it makes sense to wait until October 8th for us to see just how potent that the Ryzen 4000 CPUs are going to be. The Ryzen 3000 series are already really amazing, the 3900, even down to the 3600, one of my favorites, like I mentioned, the 3950X. So I could only imagine that the 4000 series CPUs are going to bring a lot of improvements, especially with the clocks like we mentioned before. And the bonus, you'll be able to use them on an X570 motherboard or something like that if you already have that. Plus, remember, they're also going to work with PCIe Generation 4. Now, NVIDIA said that PCIe Generation 4 is not really that big of a deal right now, even for the 30 series GPUs. You're not going to get much of a bottleneck. It doesn't make that big of a difference, but eventually, I think in a few years down the line, as it gets more optimized, they may start taking more advantage of it. So if you have an X570 motherboard with PCIe Generation 4 already, you're going to be a little bit more future-proof. So on the CPU side, to summarize, yes, it may be sort of a good idea to wait until October. Go ahead and get your NVIDIA 30 series GPU before they get sold out when they're released. I know so many people are going to do that. Maybe use whatever CPU you have now. I'm really curious what AMD is going to release with this next series of CPU, so it definitely makes sense to wait. Now, on the second set of news, that's going to be RDNA2 being announced October 28th, so next month as well, towards the end. This is going to be what they've been calling, I guess, Big NAVI, or maybe the 6000 series GPUs. The interesting thing here is that AMD sort of has been hinting that they're going to have a higher end item to sort of combat NVIDIA's higher end offerings. In the past, they've had something at the max like a 5700 XT, which is a good value GPU, and it's been pretty good. A lot of people have definitely used it, even though it did have some driver problems, but it came in a lot cheaper than the competing 2070 Super for maybe just a little bit less performance. So now maybe AMD really has to release a very high end and very good performing GPU. We know that NVIDIA's 30 series has been absolutely amazing, and I'm really not too sure. I'm a little bit skeptical that AMD is going to have something that's either going to beat it performance-wise or beat it price-wise. I know for sure historically they haven't had too many high-end GPUs that have competed with NVIDIA during the last few years, so I think the 3090 is safe. Even the 3080, that GPU seems to have so much crazy performance that I could see AMD perhaps competing with something like the 3070 or the 3060, but the 3080, I don't know, if they have something like a 6900 XT or something like that, would be very interesting if it's priced cheaper as well as having better performance. But we're really going to have to wait and see, because even though AMD has been absolutely dominating on the CPU side, NVIDIA has been dominating on the GPU side. So AMD is going to face a lot stiffer competition. And I think the fact that they put it for October 28th, which is really past the release date of the 3070, 3080, 3090. The 3070, NVIDIA said sometime in October. So I'm guessing maybe like in the beginning or middle. So if AMD put their GPUs for almost the last possible date in October, around the 28th with only a few days left to go, maybe that means that they don't necessarily have something that's going to compete with NVIDIA's really high end, because by the time that's announced October 28th, everybody that wanted to buy a 3070, 3080, 3090 most likely will have done so already. So if they really had something to compete with these, I think they would announce them a lot sooner. That way people can see and hold off on buying NVIDIA and possibly buy AMD. So that's why I'm a little bit skeptical that they're going to have something super high-end that's going to, at least beat one of the NVIDIA high-end cards. I think they're definitely going to be competing on a higher end than before, but I'm not too sure they'll be able to beat even the 3080. I mean, it's all speculation. They haven't done it before. They didn't even beat the last generation 2080 Super. So we're going to have to see sort of what they bring to the table. But the fact that it's at the end of the month, after everybody bought their 3070 already, 3080 and 3090, I don't know. If they had something really great, I just think they would have put it a little bit sooner, maybe October 8th with their Ryzen announcement. That way people would stop in their tracks and be like, all right, maybe I do want to buy an AMD card instead of NVIDIA. But we're really going to have to wait and see. I just wanted to throw this quick video out to you guys just so you know that there's more coming in October. So possibly November may be the best time to build a PC, because by then new processors are out, all the NVIDIA stuff is out. We're going to know what sort of RDNA2 AMD GPUs are, so you'll be able to probably make a much better decision. But I know a lot of us will not be able to wait, and we're going to pick up these new NVIDIA 30 series GPUs because they're just pretty amazing, and who knows what AMD is going to bring. But definitely the Ryzen 4000 series is very interesting, and the announcement date really isn't that far off, so that's something that's going to be very possible even in our current 30 series builds. Alright guys, thank you very much for watching. Remember to subscribe if you like my content, hit that notification bell, leave a comment below, and I'll see you guys on the next video.